else.
Yeah, you're the second presentation though, I think, right?
Okay, oh, that's fine. That's fine. So that'll be great. Okay, you can start first.
Hey guys, sorry, I think I'm waiting for my architect team as well. I'll try to touch base on where they are.
Okay, well, hang on for a minute. order. This is the Design Advisory Panel meeting for November 23rd. And just a reminder to all of you, the meeting is live streamed and video recorded for the public. So first of all, we need to do the adoption of the minutes. There was a last minute addition of some floor plans. So everybody received that, I'm assuming. And can I get a motion to adopt the agenda as amended? Kevin, seconder. Jonathan? Okay, all in favor? Great, okay. And we can proceed then with, we have two presentations this evening. The first one for property on the borders Prideaux and Milton, and Christine Mays will introduce that. Go ahead, Christine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So development permit application DP 1316 is for a 3-story multifamily residential building comprised of a total of 10 dwelling units. And so the subject property splits an old city mixed use, which is DT8, and that's on the rectangular shaped lot fronting Prideaux Street, an old city low density fourplex residential R14 on the Panhandle lot, which has frontage on Milton Street. The lots are designated Old City Neighborhood in the city plan. The properties are located, or at least the access to the property is located on the west side of Prideaux Street, and that's between Franklin and Fitzwilliam Street. The subject property falls within Development Permit Area 8, so that's for form and character, and the General Design Permit Area Design Guidelines and Old City Multifamily Residential Design Guidelines apply to the proposed development. There are a few variances that are associated with the proposed development, and that includes reducing the minimum landscape buffer along the front lot line, as well as the minimum landscape treatment level, reducing the driveway width for a double-lane driveway, as well as reducing a drive aisle width for 2 parking spaces that are along that driveway. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Great. Okay, and who's presenting this evening?
I can present.
Okay, you can share your screen anytime you want. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Just give me a second. Okay, let me see if you see my screen. Do you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so this is the design that we have. It's as you said, located at Prideaux Street, and it's a 3-story building. So if I go to the site plan, we have the entrance from the Prideaux, and at the main floor we have the some residential units. At the back we have our parkings, and at this side, as you see, so entrance is from here. At the back we have the parkings, and we have the garbage enclosure here, and the entrance to the building is from the lane that we designed. And so that's going to be the ground floor. As you enter into the lobby, so you have the elevator, you have a scissor stair for the exits, and you have the utility room at that side. 2 units at the Prideaux Street side. So we have the same kind of design. At the top floor, we have 1 2-bedroom on this side, another 2-bedroom on the other side, and 1 bedroom on each corner at the south side. So we have the elevator and the scissor stairs on the south side. So this is like a typical floor in total. So on each floor plate we get 4 units, and 8 units typical, and we get 2 more units at the ground floor. So about 10 units altogether. So if I go to the facade design is pretty simple, with 2 different volumes, 2 different color. So one color is like a dark color on one side, and a little bit brighter color on the other side, and that's a combination contrast between the materials. and we have used some accent colors and material, which is this one. It's like a composite material. We used it like randomly on the facade. So if I go back to the design itself, the design is being based on one feature, which is the privacy. So in a way that on this facade over here, we have like a box all over the balcony. So these balconies, they have their own privacy, and same with the other one. So it's a very simple and on the other side modern design, and we think it can be a really good add up to the context of the city. So that's a brief explanation from architectural point of view. And we have actually provided some drawings here, which shows our building in the context. And it shows how much buffer, like a green buffer, we have all around. So, and some pictures from the Google map, which shows the area. Yes. And if I want to share landscape is pretty actually landscape is pretty minimal design, because we don't have too much landscape left. So we have one strip of landscape at the south side, one strip of landscape at the west side, and these are the and a little bit actually on the east side. So we have provided some patio with combination of green space and patio on the east side, which is along the Purdue Street. And we somehow, when we need our exit pass or egress pass, we somehow we managed to have a balanced design between the landscape and our egress pass to satisfy the building code. So, and over here the landscape architects, they provided some trees and the shrubs and the grasses that they're using for this property. So just to be a little bit distinguished, we are using some different kind of colors, like red color and yellow color on the. I'm not a landscape architect, but when I was talking to them, I told them that we need to kind of distinguish the site. So use some sort of trees that can work like a monument, So this is the idea now. So pretty much that's a brief about the building and the landscape. So let me know if you have any questions.
Okay, if you're done, you can stop sharing your screen.
Sure.
Thank you. Do any of the panel members have questions of staff on this property? Hector, go ahead.
Quick question. What's happening with the panhandling of the site? Is there any proposal to maybe donate that piece of land to the other owner, or what's the idea behind that?
I'll leave this one to our client to answer. So there was actually discussion about this. So I'll leave to you, Stephen.
Yeah, so we're still determining what to do with that. We've proposed possibly like almost like a land swap with the neighbor on the back. So giving up that side portion, but taking that same percentage back as on a depth side for this property. So we're still in talks for that. So just trying to figure that out with them.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. That makes sense.
Were you wanting staff to answer to that, Hector, or did you have anything to add to that, Christine?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for staff? Kevin, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. One question regarding the variances related to the minimum required landscape buffer. There's the one that talks about reducing it from 1.8 meters down to 0.9 meters. And then there's and reduce the minimum landscape treatment level from a 1 to a 0. So it's that one there that I have a question about. What does it mean, the minimum landscape treatment level from 1 to a 0?
Thanks for your question, Kevin. So what that is there is a required number of on-center spacing for trees. And so in this case, the trees are shown in the city right-of-way. So street trees, or as they'd be commonly referred to. And so usually we'd expect to see, more of those trees on the lot itself. And so if there is a reduction in the number of shrubs, grasses, so on and so forth, that would be a variance for minimum landscape treatment levels.
Thank you, Christine.
Okay, well, maybe Kevin, if you'd like to get started on giving your feedback on this project.
Perfect. Thank you, Madam Chair. Nice presentation, Stephen and Rad. I think this is a very nice project. Obviously, it's something we really need to see in these neighborhoods. Obviously, not a big lot, but I think when you're providing 10 units, that works very nicely for areas like this. With respect to the site design, staff made comments about the excess parking, and did you give any thought to that and rationale? I like to see as much parking as possible, but did you look at whether or not there's any other opportunities to provide for amenity space or long-term bike storage, things like that?
So we have 10 units, and so far we have provided 10 parking spots. So far, this is the maximum that we got for the project, to be honest with you, because as you know, the lot size is not that big, and we did lots of gymnastics to accommodate 10 spots. The only way that we can gain more parking spots, is to go to the
no, I'm not concerned about excess parking spots. I mean, is there any way that you can accommodate amenity space and bike storage, long-term bike storage, which I believe I don't see on the plan? It looks like there's a storage room.
Yes. So
but that's not long-term bike storage, right? That's not.
Yeah, we can use part of that storage room for the bike storage. But it
doesn't look very big, so I'm just kind of concerned about that. And also, there's no electric bike areas as well.
Yeah, I think that you're referring to the Class B bikes, so the one that we just provide the rack, actually. So we can provide a little bit of that Class B in front of the entrance to the building. So we can provide some racks. I think that's doable.
Yeah, it would need to be pretty secure, though, if it's going to be for the tenants and not for people that are just coming to visit.
No, I mean, usually what we do, we're going to provide a spec as part of our BP sets, and those are secured bike racks, correct? So they're going to be...
Yeah, so those are really my only two concerns, are whether or not there's ways to develop outdoor amenity space in addition to long-term bike storage, possibly combined with electric bike storage as well. Okay, go ahead.
Bike racks, I think we can definitely do it, but outdoor amenity spaces, I don't think we have any space left in the site. So we used every inch.
Yeah, I understand that, and it's difficult to fit everything that you can into a project like this, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's just that in knowing the neighborhood quite well as I do, there really isn't really any outdoor amenity spaces or parks that are nearby, and if there's any way that you can look at that to see, I know it's I could easily throw out there providing a roof deck and stuff like that, and I understand the complications and costs with that, but I want to put it in there just because if there's any way that you can develop it, whether it's through looking at it on site or through a roof deck, I think I just have to put it in there just because I think it needs to be there. With the building design, I love the form and character. They're really the entry presence being around the side of the building is kind of different. If there's any way that you can highlight that entry a little bit more, the presence of that, whether it's through a defined pedestrian link or highlighting the entry, I think you could do a little bit more with that. You do have the nice bold, at least you're showing on your rendering, nice bold numbers of the street. They are on the side of the building, not on the front. So you might want to be careful with that. I agree with city staff that the screening of the rooftop equipment, if you can screen them with architectural materials that are complementary to the form and character, that would work very nice. There's a detailing issue that I have a little problem with because I've dealt with it many times over the years. I like stucco, acrylic stucco, but when you start dealing with the lighter colors like white and you have a zero parapet on your roof, all you have is a cap flashing coming over top of the roof. That is a disaster for staining, because even if you slope the flashing back onto the roof, you will get dirt and runoff with rain running down the facade onto the white stucco. And I would ask you just to maybe look at that detail and see if there's any way that you can try to look at whether or not there's any way you can deal with that problem, because it is a problem. The dirt runs down in the stucco because of the rain and you get the staining. So I would recommend that you look at that detail to see, even if it means providing a little bit of an overhang there, that maybe that's not the solution, but providing something so you don't get that staining detail. The other last thing with form and character is your railing that you have. It looks like you're putting in just a black aluminum railing. Is that correct?
Yes.
And I like how it works with the form and character of the standing siding, the vertical siding, get those vertical lines running down. But I question whether or not that works with the modern form and character of having that vertical siding, and whether or not did you look at any other solutions, whether it's a glass siding or anything else along that?
Actually, that was kind of deliberate. We used these pickets because we have this vertical reveals.
Yes, yes.
And
yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
And I just wondered if I understand you have that vertical siding, and you have the lines running, and it works very well with that. It seems to look kind of cheap, in my opinion, and it doesn't look very modern. And I just wondered if you did look at any other options besides that. And I'm not putting it in as a recommendation. I'm just saying that unless anybody else jumps in on that, on this as well, I just think as far as a modern contemporary look to a cladding that you have, whether or not a vertical spindle look to it just doesn't seem to fit, in my opinion. But I will ask everyone else to jump in on it, unless you have it other than the cladding thing, which I understand. Having the vertical lines works with the cladding, so I understand that. So unless anybody else jumps in, I just want to put it in just to ask you. aside from that, the landscape concept, I'll leave most of that up to Jonathan to look at. There are some existing trees there that staff commented about, and whether I'm not sure if you can comment on. There's one especially on the south side of the property, whether or not it could be retained or anything.
So you're talking about the south side of the property.
I think there's one along the side. I think it looks like it could be very, very difficult to maintain, but
Yeah.
I think staff commented on looking at ways to secure some of the existing trees.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit too hard, as you say, the south side one, it's a little bit too hard to keep, but probably the one on the west side, we can keep that one. But the south side is a little bit tough, to be honest.
And did you have the city arborists look at the trees and whether or not they would be suitable to be retained or should be removed?
We have a arborist report, as I'm aware of. Since I'm a little bit cold to the meeting, just received the invite. Sorry about that. I don't have it ready and handy here, but we can provide that one for you.
Okay. Other than that, staff also made a comment about the fence details being a little bit more of a residential scale. I believe you have a 42-inch high fence for the most part.
Yeah.
And they were looking at something that possibly could be more of a residential scale. So if you would like to comment on that, I would appreciate that.
42 inches is what the building code is asking for, the guard height. But if you think that when you say residential height, what do you mean exactly? Could you?
Yeah, well, I think you're right. Obviously, if it's a guardrail, it needs to be 42 inches high. But in areas where it can be a residential scale, which could be 36 inches or less, and also possibly a detail that could fit in more with. I like the detail drawing that the landscape architect showed for the railing. But and I would just say that maybe look at that in the staff comments as well, because if there's any way that you can reduce the massing with the fences and in any areas that don't require the guardrail, something that could be more residential friendly, that might serve good too.
36 inches can work because I'm looking at this area and I don't see any big drop there that we need a guardrail, to be honest with you. So fence at that side just its purpose is to to divide these two lots from each other. So I think 36 inches works for us, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Other than that, I think you have a really nice project here. I think there's just some little things that might need to be tweaked a bit, but it's something that definitely is needed in this neighborhood. And these smaller projects, these 10-unit projects, are exactly what we need in downtown to get more people living there. So, thank you for your presentation and nice job.
Thank you
Thanks
for the comments. That was great.
Thanks, Kevin. Angela, would you like to go?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to the applicants for your presentation. So I think most of my comments are generally related to some functionality of the site. I'd like to start by saying, I really like the form character of the building. Color palette is nice, and well needed project for this area for sure. But as far as the functionality goes, I was kind of just looking at the accessibility parking spot, and the fact that you have a couple of extra parking spaces. I know parking is always an issue and more spaces is better. But I was wondering, and it's probably like a calculation thing, but I thought that maybe the accessibility parking stall would be better suited to be closer to the building if it was possible. and I don't know how that could work, but maybe eliminating a couple of the smaller spaces or
Yeah.
and then I was just kind of like thinking it was a little bit too bad that the garbage is right beside the entry of the building. So it's kind of just probably way too onerous to sort of start playing with that. But I didn't know if maybe the garbage pickup might be able to get moved to the accessibility location and then pull the garbage, the accessibility parking closer, and maybe play with the long-term parking for the bike stalls and amenity space or something like that. Like just sort of playing with those three things, like the garbage location being in a maybe sort of a better spot outside, but like away from the entry, and bringing the accessibility parking space closer to the building, as well as creating space for some long-term bike storage. Like I say, it might not be feasible, and it might be too much to ask, but it's just throwing it out there.
Good points, to be honest with you. The only thing is, we thought about it, and the garbage enclosure is just designed in a way that we thought that it's going to be that small garbage. Those are small cars, actually. They're coming to the site, not the big ones. So
Okay.
that's why we just didn't want the car goes all the way to the back of the building. So previously it was at the southwest of the building, of the site. Then we thought that maybe we can do this. You see, there's a planter next to the entrance, and that's because we want to hide, actually, so nobody can see the kind of the garbage. Somehow we just recessed it in this area and we just hided it. That was the only reason. The issue with a small plot of land like this is, yeah, we have everything and we want actually to accommodate like everything in a small thing, a small land. The reason for the accessible parking just to be there is because at the end of the driveway, so naturally, just really easy. You just, if you're on a wheelchair, you go straight over there, and the distance between stall number 1 to the entrance is not that high of a distance, to be honest. It's about 60 feet, something like this. But again, let me have a look at this area again. And if I can change these things, definitely I would. As Kevin said, we need to provide some Class B bicycle racks. We're going to do that where we have the planter. We're going to provide that one instead. And let me see if we can do some, shuffling around. And yeah, those are the good points, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah, great. Awesome. The other thing was, yeah, of course, the site is so constrained and you're limited for any sort of substantial landscaping, obviously looking for variances. And staff had mentioned the rooftop deck, and understandably it's expensive as well, but if there's an opportunity to create some sort of rooftop deck with some landscaping provisions, or even some simple herb planters, or something, I think that would lend well to this project. It's got, the design guidelines talk about not impeding views, but in the case of having maybe even a small roof deck, you could be enhancing views for all the 10 units versus just maybe one. I'm not sure how the top units could get a view, but it maybe the offset of the expense of a rooftop deck might entice people to live there or purchase there. So maybe it's a win. And then the other one was the design guidelines talking about obviously the old city quarter. This is a modern looking building. And I don't know how you could sort of incorporate any architectural elements that would sort of have that old city feel, but maybe rather than the aluminum siding, fake looking wood, maybe it's natural wood, maybe it's a natural element that's brought into it. Just an idea. And then I did notice there's some other buildings that had sort of more of a old city character, some sort of detailing at the roof's edge that maybe that would be somewhere where you could pop out a little bit of a old city element. I'm not sure, but I just thought that if there was an opportunity to incorporate some slight old city feature, that would be probably great. Or even if it was, well, this is different, but yeah, sort of incorporate into the entrance, but this one's off to the side. So yeah, that was my comment about that. And then of course, support native plants versus any sort of invasive plants in the planting palette. And I think that was all I had to add. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Great comment.
Great, thanks, Angela. Hector, would you like to go?
Sure, thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, I think it's a great project. Interesting scale, interesting infill project. Obviously, that comes with a lot of challenges. I guess I have a few questions here. And again, I'm not super familiar with all the zoning bylaws of that area. So in terms of the garbage enclosure and that outdoor storage space, I really don't like the chain link fence. I think there can be some better quality materials. I mean, you're already talking about can be high quality aluminum picket fence, anything better than chain link fence. Again, not sure why it's being kind of done in that way. Maybe you can explain me a bit more about it.
We were talking about the outdoor storage, right?
Yeah, and the garbage enclosure. Both of them are like chain link fence.
Yeah, that doesn't have any actually any vision. I mean, you can't see it. It's underside of the building. It's like completely pretty much invisible. That's
I tend to disagree with that. I mean, it's kind of the downtown area of Nanaimo. There's a lot of people walking.
No, I'm looking at the outdoor storage location. I'm not.
No, well, yeah, no, I know that it's on the back of the building, but I think that people will see it. Also, people living there will see it all the time. I mean, you will park there and you will get out of your car, and the first thing you will see is like a chain link fence with garbage bins.
Yeah.
The other thing about talking about security is that I think a lot of parking areas in downtown Nanaimo have gates. So exactly where you have that garbage enclosure on the driveway, I will not be surprised if at some point you guys need to put a gate, because again there is a lot of.
Probably we will at the gate actually to the main entrance to the site. Yeah.
Yeah. So that will be an interesting how it worked with the planter, and the garbage enclosure area. So it might be something that you want to review. Talking about the character of the area, I agree. I was looking at your exterior elevations. The ground floor has the material doesn't seem to be defined. It only says something like fluted aluminum panel, but in the pictures looks like a wood fluted, and then on the elevation is just like a gray material.
This is a wood fluted. It's a composite material, but it's wood stain. And so it comes into different colors. Yes.
Yeah, because I think it would be an interesting area of opportunity to add some brick. I mean, brick really works with these kind of modern designs. and I think it will really help the project to get into the old city quarter style of buildings. Yeah, so those are my comments. I know it's a bit more expensive, some of these. But on the other hand, I think if you're not putting a rooftop, which rooftop is also very expensive, maybe you can spend more money on using better materials for the building.
This material, it is a good material. It's not that cheap. So it's about $20 per square feet. So it's not, so that's why we're using it like a limited kind of manner.
Yeah.
But brick, I just don't see the brick goes well with the rest of the design. So the design is like this timeless kind of design between black and white, and then we have only some contrasted material. So if we bring brick into the equation, it's going to be completely different thing. It just changes the design rationale for us. So I think we really like to stick to this material. But let me think about how we can bring up that traditional elements. Maybe we can come up with some sort of traditional design at the entrance of the building, or somehow we accommodate some sort of traditional elements in the east side, for example. But
yep.
I kind of, with all due respect, I kind of don't agree with going all brick at the bottom side of the building. It just changes the whole design language. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree, and I don't want to design the building. I don't want to be kind of in that position. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of like modern bricks nowadays, but again, it's just a comment. I also respect your design. So thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Great, thanks, Hector. Jonathan, you want to go ahead?
You're on mute.
Got your sound yet?
Can you hear me through the room mic?
Got you now, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not supportive of the proposed variances. They all seem indicative of trying to put too large of a building on too small of a lot. Things like landscape buffers are required by zoning bylaw for a reason, so I think just ignoring them because you can't fit it, I don't think that's acceptable. So if you want to reduce landscape buffers by that amount, I think you need to propose some sort of alternative of providing the function of the landscape buffer through some other method. So like visual buffers, maybe a more decorative fence on that side. Landscape areas also, it's a soft landscape that can infiltrate stormwater, so perhaps you can propose paving materials somewhere that can infiltrate stormwater and divert it out of the storm sewer system and into the subsoils. It's also a loss of landscape area plant materials, so I think you should propose another way to incorporate that sort of landscape area into the site, whether that's in repurposing one of the parking stalls or on the rooftop. So yeah, it just seems like there's a lot of things missing here that really shouldn't be ignored just because there's not enough room. It seems to indicate maybe the building's too big for this lot. So those are my initial reactions. I think in a downtown location like this, long-term bike storage is kind of necessary. So I think I think you should be looking to propose a way to do that, and by long-term secure, I mean either indoor or if it's outdoor, surrounded by a gated fence and weather protected. So if that can be done in repurposing one of the parking stalls or the outdoor storage area, I think providing secure bike parking is important for a development like this. The main pedestrian entrance to the building is accessed by looks like an asphalt driveway. So it would be good to have, I think the paving on that side of the site needs to be a bit more decorative because you're kind of replacing a landscape buffer with asphalt. So, and that is the main pedestrian access to the building. So a more decorative paving material, I think, should be proposed there. There was a staff comment about invasive species. I'm not exactly sure which one they were referring to. Perhaps it might be the Norway maple, which can have invasive tendencies. So perhaps consider proposing an alternate tree species to that one. I'm not as concerned about the use of native species, just because this isn't really a natural condition on this site, the way the planting beds are. So non-native adaptable species, I think, are okay in this context. And the fencing material, yeah, I don't think there should be any chain link fence used in like a downtown project like this. Even if it's not visible from the street, the residents see it every day. So yeah, a better quality of fencing, visual quality of fencing, I think should be proposed.
Chain link fence cannot be bad. I mean, per se. I saw the other day in the city of Burnaby in Sinclair Center, which is a very nice looking building. They're using this chain link fence. It's not a normal one, but it's got this, you know, some sort of vertical elements to it. So it just changes the look completely, to be honest. So that called chain link fence too. But I totally get your point that it shouldn't be like a ugly things that they're using in the farm, for example. Yeah, I totally accept that one.
Yeah, so if you're proposing like a better looking version of chain link, it would be good to have like a detail of that, like next to the wood fence details. Just
Yeah,
so that looks like.
improve the picture of that one. Yeah, definitely.
Are you done, Jonathan?
Yeah, that's my comments. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Hillary, go ahead.
Thank you. I do think the long-term secure bike parking is really important because this is easy biking distance to a lot of amenities, and bike racks aren't going to do it. Like it does need to be somewhere that people can hang up their bikes, and a lot more people are riding electric bikes, so some like charging ability might be nice. Also for electric cars, I don't know if you've considered how to enable people to be able to charge their car if they have an electric car. I do think the driveway reduction is good. It doesn't need to be a wide driveway because it's not a fire access route. There is a concern from the neighbor in the back that the 5-foot-high wood fence isn't adequate separation for the noise and fumes, so I'll just share that has been shared with council. And as much as I like the modern design, it's not really consistent with the vibe of the old city quarter. So something like a pitched roof, like even like a pitched roof facade, I think could really help it fit in with the neighborhood a lot more. And I'm looking at that top floor balcony, like there's no weather protection over that, the balcony on the right-hand side, and that could be an opportunity to add some sort of peaked thing that would make it blend in a little bit more with the neighborhood. And I do wonder, you've done a lot of work to include an accessible parking space, but none of the units are accessible or even adaptable from what I'm seeing. So I'm just wondering, it doesn't actually seem to be a requirement that you even have an accessible space. So obviously my preference would be an accessible space and an accessible unit, but in the absence of an accessible unit, I just have to wonder why that's included. Because even if someone was visiting the building as a visitor needing an accessible spot, the bathrooms aren't accessible, so they wouldn't even be able to use the bathroom. But otherwise, I think the density downtown is something that we do need. So yeah, those are my suggestions. Thank you.
Great, thanks. I think I've got everybody here. So yeah, I'll just pitch in my thoughts. First of all, thanks for your presentation, and that's a very handsome building. I like the building a lot, but I have to concur with the comments about the old city design. I'm kind of a stickler for that, because I think the architects building in this area have to consider that. And I don't see actually how you can adapt this building. It's very handsome in its own right. It would look great in Nanaimo in many places. But what it's not doing is addressing the old city quarter design guidelines in any way, shape, or form that I can see. And I understand your reticence when people suggest brick or peaked roof style. It would totally change that building. So I understand that. I find that's a bit of a problem with this project. Otherwise, as a building on a small lot, I think you've done a great job in trying to fit it in there. And I live in a building very similar, in that we have a side entrance that, just like you've designed there, but you've actually done one better. My building's quite a bit older, and you've got the building entrance better recessed. Because like in my building, what happens, we also have only one drive aisle. People step out and they're right out in the driveway. And if they don't look, the car could be coming one way or the other, right? So I like the fact that yours is recessed. But I was looking at that and I see you have a bike rack parked right there.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not sure about the scale. Maybe my measurements aren't right, but I figure if you had one bike or two bikes, it's going to actually block the passageway as somebody comes out the door.
If we put it in a slanted way, we can achieve that. Yes.
Yeah, it looks pretty tight.
It is a little bit. It's a tight site, so
yeah.
Yeah.
So you might want to consider what kind of bike rack, because if they're putting them out like that, they're going to be cutting across right where people have to walk out the door.
Right.
The other suggestion I have that I kind of take from the building I live in is your garbage enclosure. I don't understand why you're just wiring it in. Why not build a room there and fully enclose it? In my building, we actually have garbage chutes, and so it comes down and they land in the bins, and the garbage pickup that we have, because it's also a small building, are just the bins, and the garbage collector contractor comes in and opens the door and takes them out. And so it's closed right off and not visible to anybody. In fact, there's the odd time that we've had somebody end up sleeping overnight in there, but most times I don't know if they realize that the door is even unlocked. But I think if you had just wire there, you're going to find in that neighborhood that soon there's going to be people pillaging through the garbage and in and out of there.
There's one issue. If you enclose the whole garbage room, then we have to come up with a carbon filter. So it's not going to be a smelly area. So that's one problem. That's why we just kept it open.
A vented door?
Vented door probably is not good enough, because if we come up with a vented door, then we have to, mechanically, we have to design some sort of a fan as like exhaust fan, so that the smell, it just doesn't stays in the room. And if you do that, then you don't want to shoot this bad smell out of the room. That's why in the way of the exhaust fan, you need this carbon filters. So it's going to be a little bit more complicated.
Well, anyway, I think what we got probably our recommendation is that you consider some ways to deal with the garbage room. And I'm sure the building codes have changed since my building's quite a bit older, so there may be other codes that I'm not aware of. But anyway, I think there is a better way of handling it, and you'll find that the contractors here will come in and access the room and pull the things out. So it's better to keep them invisible from the street and residents, not just for the aesthetics, but for the, their protection.
We can, for example, enclose this part of it, which is the north part of it, and just open up the other side. So in this case, people, they cannot see the garbage enclosure, but on the other side is vented area. So I just have one more thing to add regarding this downtown facades and the feature. So there was, if you let me to share my screen again.
Well, I think we probably just need to move on because we
Oh.
still work through the rest. I think
Yeah,
what we'll do is we'll give you our recommendations, and then you can
Sure.
go away with them and
Just
think about
really
it.
quickly, I just wanted to add that for a reason we added the context of the building. So if you look at the second building in a row or third building in a row, especially the third building in a row looks like a fourplex or sixplex, something like that. It's a modern design. So the only thing that is got different from this building, it's got an overhang. That's it.
No,
But-
I understand it. It's a mixed street. It has been over the years because there weren't all the guidelines in place and less restrictions. So I think what we're trying to achieve with the downtown is sort of retain some of that character along the way. And that doesn't, so I mean, you can have sort of modernized look, but with some reflection of that character. I think what's happening with this building is it stands out as totally different. So you've added just another totally different building on the block instead of even trying to suit what's already there. So that's a challenge, but anyway. And I think my final comment would be, I'd agree with everybody on the amenity space. I think if you're going to cut down on the landscape buffers, it's really incumbent on you to have an outdoor amenity space, at least somewhere, if not on the ground, on the roof. And if it means cutting back the parking, I'd even be in support of a little bit of a cutback on the parking to give some area outside. But I think you've got to provide your residents with a little bit of some sort of space there. So it's something to talk with your clients with about that. So anyway, those are my comments. I think we need to go through. We've got quite a few recommendations here. Kevin, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I just want to comment on the form and character of the building related to the neighborhood design guidelines. Just about 100, not even 100 yards away from this building is a fairly large development called, I believe they call it the Lofts, right on Franklin, just off of Prideaux. And it's a very modern architecture, and I believe they have flat roofs. And I just want to be just make sure everyone's aware and be careful about the neighborhood design guidelines are written in a way where they want to reflect I guess the neighborhood architecture, and I think they're trying to hint at the architectural style of older houses and things. But these buildings, modern buildings, have been going up in these neighborhoods, and I don't think we really need to change the form and character in such a ways where we're dealing with them trying to match old historic buildings that are in these neighborhoods. I think a lot can be done just through materials and details such as fencing details. So I sympathize with the architect because I like the form and character of the building. I don't really care for the white color of the building and how that creates even a more modern style that might not fit in with the neighborhood. But I like the building. I think maybe with some material choices and colors, they might be able to bring it down to more residential scale. But I feel that the building fits in its form. If I was to look at it in black and white, in grayscale, I think it would look fine in this neighborhood. So I have no issues with how the architect has presented the project related to the form and character of the neighborhood committee. Thank you.
Okay. Well, let's go through our recommendations and just see what we have here. First of all, consider opportunities to provide an outdoor amenity space. Consider adding secure long-term bike storage and charging facilities. And highlight the side entrance somehow to improve, I would say, to improve wayfinding. I think we also had a suggestion here from, I think it was Jonathan, that perhaps maybe even marking out the drive aisle with a walkway might help. And I agree with that because in my building as well, people go by it and go, where's the entrance? It's sort of hidden behind, it's sort of tucked in an alcove. And when you come from the front, you really can't tell where the entrance is. So something on the drive aisle might help to highlight that as well. So maybe we can combine those a little bit. Screen the rooftop equipment with materials complementary to the exterior finishes. Consider different material than the stucco, or provide possibly an overhang to protect the stucco. Does that make sense, Kevin?
It's more of a detailing thing. My concern is with the parapet where the flashing is on the roof,
Okay.
and make sure that the detailing is done, that there isn't going to be staining coming down from the roof. So I don't want to really discourage stucco. I just want to make sure that the detailing of the roof and the flashing details at the roof ensure that there won't be staining problems.
Okay. How would you phrase that then? Ensure the flashing.
Yeah, and ensure that the roof flashing details at the roof won't create problems for staining.
Yeah, I totally got your point. So we just project this flashing a little bit out there so it doesn't drip actually on the stuff.
Yeah, you're going to have a little bit of a flashing turn on your flashing, but it's never enough. So I think you need to have something there that anything comes down off that flashing cap won't create a drip that creates staining.
Yes, got it.
Kevin, while I've got you there, you also suggest, you were talking about an arborist. Do you want to recommend providing an arborist report on that?
I'm struggling with that one, unless maybe Jonathan would be the most expert to discuss that one, whether or not arborists should look at any of the existing trees to see if any of them can be retained.
Yeah, I think just with how big the building footprint is on the site and the disturbance from construction, I find it unlikely that any of those trees could be retained with the development as is proposed. So, not sure if it's worth going into that any further.
Okay. Okay, is that okay, Kevin, for you?
Yeah, it doesn't need to be put in there.
We've had a couple comments on the location of the accessible parking spot. So I'm not sure how to put that. Some people were wondering if it's necessary at all, or the location, or if we want to make that a recommendation at all, or just leave it off. Any suggestions?
Is a wheelchair accessible stall mandatory? That would be a question for Christine.
I think it's asked by the bylaw, yeah.
That's correct, Kevin. It is not required for this development. So the number of parking spaces and percentage thereof.
Oh, fantastic. That's a good news.
So maybe we can take that off, or Hillary, would you like to have a recommendation that they consider accessible unit?
Yeah,
it's a good question.
I think my preference would obviously be to include an accessible unit. If possible, if you're going to include the accessible parking space, but if it means that you can have an outdoor amenity space or secure bike parking, then I think that's a good trade-off.
Right.
Don't really think that we can get an accessible unit, to be honest, with all those.
Pretty tight.
Yeah,
I think how about we just leave that comment off? We've discussed it, and I think the emphasis here seems to be a strong emphasis on trying to get some amenity space in there, so that might just change that whole.
That's a good trade-off, actually. Yeah.
As well. So, okay, and okay, I think that's gone. Screen rooftop. Okay, garbage access. Consider different ways to finish the garbage enclosure. Consider the have a possibility of an outdoor amenity space or rooftop deck. I'll add that to the other one, so that narrows that down. Consider some way to incorporate features or materials that better reflect the Old City design guidelines. So we won't specify. I think we just leave that on, and you can figure out if it's just changing some of the materials, and figure out a way of somehow reflecting those guidelines. And I think Kevin put it.
Yeah, and Madam Chair, if I can just add to that, maybe include in not only the finished materials, but the fence details to also reflect the neighborhood.
Fences as well. Okay. Walkway, we'll kind of cover that. You could do the walkway considering. Okay, I think that probably does it. Unless you want something about the invasive plant species, I think that's probably covered by staff. We probably don't need to make that as a recommendation, or do you want that as a recommendation, Jonathan?
I mean, you could. Well, yeah, I'm not exactly sure what staff was referring to. If it's the Norway maple, we could make a recommendation to propose an alternative tree species to the Norway maple.
You're garbled, and I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Yeah, we could make a recommendation to consider alternate tree species to the Norway maple.
Oh, okay. Okay, and what about, we have quite a few variances. So we have, right now I have a list of 8 recommendations, and there's several variances. So the driveway width, the landscape buffer, and I can't remember quite the other ones. Did anybody have any issues other than the fact that we talked about the landscape buffers, I think primarily? I didn't hear any concerns about the driveway. I can't remember what the other one was. What was the other variances we had? Kevin?
Yeah, I support the variances, and I agree with Jonathan that if we do support any of the landscape buffer variances, that the applicant should consider amenity spaces and roof decks and stuff like that. I think that's something I think it doesn't have to be worded that way, but that's the way I feel anyways, that if they need those variances.
I'll join Zoom on my phone. Oh, sorry.
You got your mic on there.
Oh, sorry.
Do you want to make that part of the motion?
It's Jonathan threw it in there, and I like the idea. He didn't have it really as part of a motion, but
we do have it as a recommendation about adding the outdoor amenities.
Yeah.
We didn't. So we could.
I'm totally fine with everybody else agrees to it. It doesn't have to be in there for me. I support the variances, but it is in there as a recommendation that they provide that they would like to see a roof deck. So.
Great. Okay. Well, can I get a motion to accept the project as presented with those 8 recommendations and support for the variances? From Angela, seconder. Kevin, all in favor? Hector, okay, great. All right, you've done it. Thank you very much for your presentation and your patience with all this, and good luck with it.
Thank you all.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Good night.
Night. Okay, we have a second presentation this evening, this one for property on Holly Avenue. So, and Christine Mays again will introduce it. Go ahead, Christine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So development permit application BP 1320 is for a 4-story multifamily residential building, and that's over a 2-level underground parkade, which comprises a total of 47 dwelling units. The subject properties are zoned medium density residential, and so that's R8, and are designated neighborhood and city plan. The property is located on the west side of Holly Avenue, at the corner of Holly Avenue and Rosehill Streets, and on the other side, bounded by Bradley Street. Subject property is within Development Permit Area 8, and that's form and character. And the general Development Permit Area design guidelines apply to the proposed development. There are 2 variances associated with proposed development, and that's to increase the maximum height of a principal building. That's from 14 meters to 14.7 meters, as well to reduce the minimum front yard setback along Holly Avenue, and that's 6 meters to 5.7 meters. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Great, thank you, Christine. And so applicant can go ahead and share the screen if they want. Matthew, are you presenting this evening?
Yes.
Okay. You can go ahead.
Finding the button. Can you see my screen?
No, not yet.
Not yet? Okay. Up now?
It's coming up now, yeah.
Thank you.
There it is.
Okay. So yeah, okay, everybody can see my screen, right? Okay, thank you. So good afternoon. My name is Matthew Chang of Matthew Chang Architect Incorporated. Landscape architect is Brett Forth of Foresight Landscape Architecture, and the developer is Kenmore Developers Limited. We are proposing a multi-family residential development at 307, 311, and 315 Holly Avenue. The site is located at the Townsite neighborhood at the corner of Holly Avenue and Rose Hill Street. It is a couple blocks away from the two major bus transit routes, which is Townsite Road to the north and the Terminal Avenue North to the east. Caledonia Park is 80 meters to the south, and the Brechin Elementary School is 550 meters to the northwest. As mentioned, the current zoning is R8 medium density residential, and the future land use destination is neighborhood. We are using the current zoning R8, so no rezoning is required. However, we have followed Development Permit Area 8 as mentioned regarding form and character guidelines. The site is composed of 3 residential lots with 2 street frontage, Holly Avenue to the east and Rose Hill Street to the north. The gross site area is 2,026 square meters. The site is steeply sloping from northwest to southeast with a grade difference of 3.64 meters. To accommodate the slope, the proposed building has a floor elevational split at the building entrance area. Also, we have to request a height variance at the lowest southeast corner only to fulfill the building height regulations. The immediate neighbors are single-family homes to the north, west, and south. To the east across Holly Avenue, there's an existing 3-story apartment. We are proposing a 4-story apartment with 47 units. The gross floor area is 3,040 square meters, and the FAR is 1.5, which is composed of 1.25 base FAR with 0.25 additional FAR for all parking space to be underground. The unit mix will be roughly 25% for 2 and 3 bedrooms and around 75% for studio 1 bedroom and 1 bedroom with den. We are proposing 6 adaptable units, which is 1 unit more than the minimum requirement. As mentioned, we are requesting a height variance of 0.7 meters at the southeast corner because of the challenging topography. The height variance will not have any impact of shadow to the south neighbors. From the Holly Avenue streetscape, the level 4 of the proposed building is setback, which proposes a better transition to the single-family home to the south. Along Rose Hill Street, the proposed building is set back 10.5 meters from the west property line, which gives a substantial separation to the single-family home to the west. And there's a trellis above the parking ramp to screen the ramp from the neighbor. The building entrance is located along Holly Avenue to the east, and the vehicular entrance is located at the northwest corner along Rose Hill Street. It is very challenging to have the vehicular entrance at the highest point of the site. However, it is the most appropriate spot because Rose Hill Street is a local road, while the Holly Avenue will be a collector road. So they are ground-orientated units on the first level, and they could be entered directly from the street or from the site circulation path. All setbacks are fulfilled except a request of 0.3 meter variance at one spot of the front yard. This variance is to emphasize the building entrance. Corner plaza, open space, and common amenity area are provided, which will be further explained by the landscape architect. 64 parking spaces are required. We are proposing 69 parking spaces, which includes 58 residential parking spaces, 3 visitor parking spaces, and 8 accessible stores, in which 6 are designated to adaptable units. 25% of the parking stores are required to provide EV charger. However, our client is planning to provide double EV charger, like 50% of the parking stores. Free stream garbage and recycle room is located at the bottom of the ramp. For long-term bike storage, the requirement is 0.5 space per unit and is fulfilled, and they are all located at P1. For short-term bike rack, the requirement is 0.1 space per unit and is fulfilled, and they are located outside the building entrance. The first level are ground-orientated units, and they come with a raised private patio, which ranging from 0 to 1.7 meters above grade because of the site topography. On level 2 to 5, balconies as private open space are provided. On level 4, the south end is set back to provide better transition to the single-family home to the south. On the rooftop, there are terraces with functions, and the rooftop could be accessed by stairs and elevator. The rooftop terrace is located on the south side at this version. However, we are in the process of stepping back. We are in the process of making changes, and we are trying to step back the terrace from the south and west edge in order to reduce overlooking to the single-family home to the south and the west. The form and character of the building is modern with flat roof. As mentioned, the building is split at the entrance area with the difference of 0.9 meters between north and south portion to match the site topography. The separation of the north and south portion could further help breaking up the scale of the building. The feature at the balcony on the first 2 levels helps creating townhouse expression, which could blend into the residential neighborhood. The cladding material is hardy board and hardy plank. Accent color is used at the building entrance area and the porches of the ground floor units. This is the west elevation rendering, looking from the parking ramp area. This is the north elevation rendering from Rose Hill Street. You can see the trellis features on the right-hand side to screen the parking ramp from the neighbors. And this is the south elevation rendering. You can see the windows are minimized to reduce the overlooking chance to the building to the south. And the setback of the main building is 0.6 meter more than the bylaw requirement to enhance the separation to the building to the south. This is the view from the southeast along Holly Avenue. This is the view from the corner of Holly Avenue and Rose Hill Street. This is the view from the northwest along Rose Hill Street, and you can see again the trellis over the parking ramp. Yeah, this is the last view from the southwest corner, and this finished the architectural presentation and our path to the landscape architect. Correct. Brad, if you need, this is your rendering. Okay. If you have your own presentation, or you can use this one. Brad?
I'm great. Thanks. Thanks, Matthew. So what we are doing with the landscape plan on this case is sort of set up by the ground level patios, which seem to have what we're trying to do is have individual access points to the street. So it feels like as there's surveillance on the street. Those patios on the ground level are in each case raised up a bit. So people have an overlook over the street and they're not vulnerable to traffic passing by. They have an overlook over them. We've incorporated within the property, because it's all on parking slab, we've incorporated some trees and raised planter boxes, precast boxes, and smaller understory trees to create a detailed flowering, colorful frontage for each individual patio. So essentially each patio has a little tree, and then there's a couple of bigger ones where we had the room to do it. We have a sidewalk system on the two frontages, but we've also connected that around the back of our project so that there's a route completely around the building. And we have incorporated lay-by spots on both streets. There's kind of parking on the end of the building is a flex space, so allows for moving and all sorts of drop-offs and stuff. And then we, on the other frontage, we created an expanded special paving area that comes out from the main lobby of the building to highlight the entrance to the project. And we brought that through and across the sidewalk so that you can really get a sense that that's where the main entrance to the building is. We've got detailed landscaping for each of the private patios in front of the little retaining walls with ornamental grasses and species. And the architectural renderings are really clean. They don't show the trees, but we've shown rows of street trees. We've got 5 on the front street, and then 2 on Holly Avenue. We incorporated within a grass boulevard. And then around the back of the project, we've got, again, small accent trees for each of the patios, and they front on a walkway that will take them out of the project. At some point, those will be gated, of course, for their own security and access. And in the back corner, we have an amenity space, which would be a rubber surface with some play facilities for children, because this has sort of mixed use of residential unit sizes. We thought there may be a desire to have some children's play application. So you can see images of what the elements are. They're intended to be quite contemporary and in keeping with the building architecture. We have incorporated a coniferous hedge along the side fronting the residential building. And again, you can sort of see the trellis for the underground parking, which would have vines growing on it and everything on that side. And I think, we also did a nice corner treatment at the intersection, which includes some seating and a little bit of an arbor trellis element. A little bit of signature planting as well, and that will identify with the crossing and everything there to give the building the stature that it actually has, that have that seating area there. And then the next image is the roof garden. So this building has a significant roof garden for the use of the residents. While we're limited on the ground level and we use the space for the play area, up on the roof space, we have some special paving. We have small trees in raised boxes. We have kind of a river rock border to keep people back from the parapet. And there's also some room so that you can't overlook the neighbors. We have a covered area with an outdoor kitchen and a combination of some sin turf and some decking to give a variety of surfaces that people can use for either sun tanning or socializing and outdoor dining, or just in groups. And you can see there's quite a large spaces that would accommodate a number of outdoor movable tables and chairs. And that's it for the landscape plan.
That's it for your presentation, Matthew?
Thank you. This is all our presentation.
Okay. Before we get going, does anybody have questions of staff? Okay, not seeing anything. I'm just wondering first, before we get going with the panel's comments, Matthew, if you could clarify your rendering is a very different color than your elevation images. And I'm kind of confused as to what color is the building going to be.
Yeah, I'm sorry that the elevation drawing is more closer to the real number, the real color, and the rendering is a bit off because of the software.
Oh, yeah, quite a bit off. Yeah, because you had your palette there, and I thought, well, it didn't make any sense. So
yeah,
okay.
Actually, I
closer to the elevation. It's the elevations that are the correct color palette.
Yes, and I think the color which is more accurate, these colors are the real colors. Okay.
So grays and blacks, and
yes.
And then yellow is a highlight. Yeah. Okay.
These are the very accurate color from the paint company. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Thanks. You can stop sharing your screen then. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Perhaps Hillary, you'd like to start off this time?
Sure, thank you. Overall, I think it's a really great looking project. Really nice density in an area that's close to a lot of amenities, and yeah, I think you've really taken the human aspects into consideration, and love to see the rooftop deck. I think that's going to make staff happy. They give that comment a lot, but love to see that it's incorporated here. I think it's obviously going to be expensive to do all of that underground parking, and it is a pretty accessible area. It's on 2 bus routes, and so you could potentially consider reducing the number of parking stalls and put in more long-term bike storage. And I do appreciate the inclusion of one more adaptable unit than is required. It'd be nice if one of the units was accessible right off the bat, just to start with. But yeah, overall, I think it's a really nice looking project. And yeah, thank you for the presentation.
Great, thanks, Hillary. Hector, would you like to go ahead?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, no, I agree. It's a nice project, very complete, a lot of very well thought solutions. Yeah, I don't have any comments. I hope it gets built quite soon. Yeah.
Thanks, Hector. Jonathan?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, overall, I like the project. I agree with some of the staff comments about considering weather protection for the short-term bike rack. Yeah, if on the rooftop patio, the river rock border, maybe like a plant material in there could be nice if that's doable the way the rooftop's designed. Just one note on plants.
It's really hard to understand, Jonathan. Sorry. Maybe
okay. Yeah, the fans.
It's actually better when you sit away from the computer.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So overall, I like the project. I agree with the staff comment about weather protection for the short-term bike rack, and the river rock border on the rooftop patio. Perhaps considering a plant material there would be nice. There was a plant species, heavenly bamboo, that can sometimes be toxic to local birds, so consider an alternative plant to that species. And the rooftop synthetic turf can get really hot in the sun in the summer, like too hot to step on, so yeah, if maybe consider shading it or looking at alternative surface materials that don't get as hot. But yeah, that's all my comments. Overall, it looks pretty good.
Great, thanks, Jonathan. Angela?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, thank you to the applicants for awesome presentation, super comprehensive, obviously very well thought out project, hitting all the marks and some. So thank you for that. Site design, I could go on, but it's all great. Love the 31 long-term storage and the public space on the corner, the child's play area. I think it's really important for a building like this with young children and easily accessible play area for families with young children. Love the connectivity around the building and the street presence of the units to the street and having the large trees along the street. Hopefully will down the road create a beautiful streetscape and street presence for those pedestrians and all those electric bike and regular bike users and bus riders. I think so I did have one question. There's just like two things I think, maybe to just put a cherry on the top, but was there a flex interior? I know you said, Brad, there was an exterior flex space, I think you said, but is there an interior flex space at all, like inside the building? Sorry, Brad, go ahead.
I can answer the thing about the street. My comment is about a flex space for parking on Holly. There's like a little lay-by there, and it allows for people to load and unload things and to pull in for dropping stuff off. And that's what that is. But I'm not sure, the architect might be able to speak to the interior spaces better than I can.
I think from the city requirement, we are not required to provide interior amenity room. So that's why we did not provide.
Okay. I just had an idea that if there was a lot of families here, I know the zoning does permit as an accessory use at daycare. Just an idea that if there was opportunity to have a flex space that could offer some sort of like daycare service or even just babysitting for after school and before school care if somebody of the residents want to work, taking care of a few children. I just feel like it would be nice with 47 units to have some sort of interior flex space for the users. I think it would be just a nice addition. And if there was any sort of opportunity to incorporate solar panel energy to the building, I think that would be a great addition to this great project. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. And Kevin?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Matthew and Brad, for your presentation. I will echo pretty much everything that's been said. I think it's a very nice project. I like that the parking is all concealed underground. The roof deck, the form and character of the building siting. There's really no major issues that I have or that haven't been brought up yet. Two things that I still have on the list that most of everyone else have commented on before, but Brad, there's some retaining walls did you mention anything about retaining walls and cascading plants or anything that are going to be on those? Probably, I'm not sure if some of them might refer to like the raised patios in the front because they're going to be concrete, correct? So I'm not sure if you're going to have climbers on those or anything, or.
Yeah, that's correct. They're little low concrete walls, but they're not. Some of them are, they vary in height. So as we get taller, I'll have climbers growing on the face of those.
Yeah. I
have nowhere to put things coming down, but I do have room for.
Yeah.
Where I can put things down, I'll use Cotoneaster, but I'll have to use some climbers for the face of them.
Okay. Okay. It's not a recommendation. I just want to make sure that it's something, because some of those walls in the front, especially as you move further south are going to get a little bit taller.
Yeah.
And those would be the ones that might be when you have a 4-foot tall concrete wall. If it's finished cleanly, it can look good, but you just never know how they're going to turn out.
Yeah, typically we have plants shown in front of all of the walls, so there's none that are exposed. So we have at the very minimum, we would have 3-foot high small shrubs, but I think I've even got space for taller things there. So I'll definitely be looking at screening them out with plant material for sure. So it'll look green.
Okay.
Kind of, it really won't, you won't have anything that's obtrusive there. We have
Okay.
a decent setback off the sidewalk line.
Okay.
Be fine.
Good. Other than that, I like your palette. You have your landscape palette and details, yeah. So I like what you've done with landscape concept. Final question is for Matthew regarding the form and character. The rear of the building, I guess you'd call it the west elevation, is pretty plain, pretty weak in my opinion, and even the south elevation, which is a small elevation, but your two other elevations, you've incorporated the tan color hardy panel on it, and also you've incorporated sort of that L-shaped cover over your balconies, which is a really nice detail. And did you look at incorporating that type of detail and color scheme across especially the west elevation or the rear elevation?
Yeah, I think it could be considered in my design development. Thank you.
Yeah, the reason is there is a buffer there because of the ramp going down. So there is a buffer that you'll be able to see it from hillside. And I think anything you can do to improve the west elevation and the south elevation to more reflect the front elevation, or I guess you call it the east elevation. I think that would help to just wrap the building a little bit more. But other than that, I'm totally fine with supporting the height and front variance that are required, and I think it's a very nice project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. I think we've got everybody covered here. So yeah, I really can't add anything. I think it's sort of looking forward to what's going to happen in that neighborhood in the future. I think there's going to be some changes, and you get to set the precedent with that building on the corner. And I really like the fact that you've got all underground parking, rooftop deck, and then also the adaptable spaces and so on. So hit a lot of good buttons there. So I think it'll be a great project, and I don't really have anything else to add other than I support all the recommendations already made. And those are, if we summarize them, consider weather protection for short-term bike parking, consider an alternate to the bamboo planting, consider shading the artificial turf on the rooftop deck to reduce heat in the summer. We could have consider a flex space on the interior, but I'm not sure if we're really allowed to be recommending interior stuff, but I'm not sure. We've done it in the past, but we'll throw that in there, I guess. Okay. Consider adding solar energy, and consider adding some of the color detail on the west and south elevations in keeping with the east and north elevations. Does that make sense, Kevin, that last one? Okay. So I have 6 recommendations. I haven't heard any concerns about the variances, so I'm assuming everybody's in support of them. So if we could have a motion to accept the project as presented with 6 recommendations and support for the variances. Anybody want to make that? Kevin, seconded by Hector. Great. Okay, all in favor? Wonderful. Okay. Well, there you go. Thank you very much, Matthew and Brad, for coming in and presenting today.
Thank you so much, and have a nice evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
You too.
Thanks.
Great. And just the last thing, I guess, before we close this evening, I just wanted to remind everybody our next meeting is December 14th, and it's going to start at 4:30 instead of 5. So just make sure you got that on your calendars for the next 2 weeks or whatever. No, it's 3 weeks actually away. So that's what we've got to look forward to. So, and our dinner. Anyway, we'll bring that up. We're still recording. Okay, let's have a motion to adjourn. Kevin, seconder. Jonathan, all in favor? Okay, great. See you guys. Talk to you soon. Bye.